there were multiple learnings that we saw. I would like to highlight 3 or 4 important points here. The first thing that we understood was that the industry has not adopted technology much. This was an industry that is still working just like 50-60-year-old. The business processes are manual, mostly family-run legacy businesses. The entry barrier was high. This was the basic understanding that we saw, that there was a huge entry barrier and at the same time no use of technology. But then when we come to the actual processes and the way in which the business are done, there are 3 major issues that we ultimately identified, which we are solving through Vahak. So the first is the issue of communication being a big hassle. So at this point of time, 100% of the transport bookings are actually done through telephone calls. A transport SME spends more than 5 to 6 hours of their daily time on phone just talking to different vendors, getting rates from them. And it basically creates a huge confusion in terms of the rates and in terms of the actual information that is there. It basically wastes a lot of time, and there is no clarity in terms of what the actual supply and the demand is. So the first problem was the problem of inefficient communication. There was no common platform in which the communication was being done. Telephone was the only way. And the next major problem was the problem of a huge trust deficit in the market. So every single transport transaction is a high-stake transaction. The material itself costs a lot in many cases. The freight is also not a small amount. And since more than 80-90% of these SMEs and owners do not have any online presence, they find it very difficult to prove their credibility in the market. And that is why what happens is that every single SME only wants to deal with those lorry owners whom they personally know. And same is the case with lorry owners. They only want to deal with those transport SMEs whom they are in touch with in person for a long time, because that is how they are able to develop trust. What this ultimately does is that since you are basically limited to your own personal networks, you are limited as a business. You are not able to get many orders. You are not able to get supply for those orders. And ultimately the lorry utilization in our country becomes very low. So the lorry utilization in our country is just about 55-60%, which means that a lorry is able to run just for 55-60% of the days in a month. The rest of the days they are just stranded or sitting idle waiting for their next order. A majority of the lorries are actually financed. Every single day a lorry is just sitting. It's a cost that the lorry owner has to bear. And all of these problems ultimately increases the transport cost for the entire nation. So I would say that the problem of communication, the problem of trust deficit being there, and the problem of low tech adoption are the 3 major problems that we saw in the market.